That's true. Naked Palpatine.
Oh, you pick that one. Fresh out of the clone tank, nude Palpatine is my
Well, that's the first thing I think of when you say Dark Empire Palpatine.
Hello, everybody. If we existed in this universe, the flat earthers would be right. Welcome to Discworld Book 2, The Light Fantastic. We continue with the wizard Rincewind and Two-Flower and Death as he is lazily trying to come about getting Rincewind. And also a bunch of other things, like we get introduced to a character who will return in other stories called Cohen the Barbarian, who is a very old 85-year-old man that used to be very adventurous, but is now just old. An old guy, an old geezer. And also, on top of that, we get to learn a little bit about the, what is it called? The Mages Unseen, the wizard school place. And how they kind of like have this like, they're not really like they're better wizards than Rincewind in terms of their knowledge, but they don't really do anything to help anybody. They kind of just like, they're kind of like, if you ever played, if you play Skyrim, you have the Greybeards. Imagine that, but like completely useless, and they're just kind of like up in their tower doing whatever they want. And some of them are okay. Some of them are pure evil. It just really depends on the one we're talking about. And we meet a little bit of them. And this one is a bit more like a novel than 4 kind of short stories are connected. But it still kind of follows right off of the last book. So this is a sequel to that. And we continue to follow Rincewind and Two Flowers. They have their adventures. But I would say the difference here is... in the last book, it very much felt like comedy. Here's some stereotype of characters. This one surprisingly has some nice, genuine moments in there, which I was surprised by because I know people talk about that in later books. I was surprised to see it here, though, so I rather enjoyed that. But, the end of the adventure, Rincewind is no longer supposed to die. He's going to live his best life, so is Two-Flower, and the story just kind of ends. We do get introduced to several characters who are going to appear later, so I look forward to that. But this ran by a lot faster, and I think I enjoyed it about as much. But I don't know, something about it. I wasn't laughing as much as I was in the first one, but it was still a good time, and it was a more cohesive story. And it still kind of feels random. Things kind of go 0 to 100. Like the world is ending in this book. I mean, it's not a big deal. They fix it, obviously. But the stakes just get raised, and then it's all fine and dandy. So that is it for my non-spoilers. I have very few spoilers, but if you don't want any of them, there's a door. So I just wrote down Belaphon. Why? Because they meet this guy midway through the story, and it just caught me off guard. He goes, "I'm a computer hardware consultant." And I just thought, in this fantasy world, I thought that was really funny. And then we have these characters. I don't write down their names, but they all have a distinct impression of how the universe started. Some say like primordial sludge. Some say God. Some say this. But they all remember distinctly and clearly what happened in the past, as they all have different answers. So I thought that was really fun. And then we also get introduced to Cohen the Barbarian. We also have walking luggage with like feet, which immediately made me think of A Nightmare Before Christmas with the bathtub that walks. We also meet Isabel, who is the adopted daughter of Death himself. We also get a name drop. He doesn't really matter for this book, but there is a book that is titled his name. We meet Mort, who I believe later on will become Death's assistant if he's not already. Also, sounds like the start to a bar joke, but the joke just is. It just is the death, war, pestilence, and famine walk into a bar. No, they're playing a card game. Death, war, pestilence, and famine. I mean, I love it. And then, like I said, I didn't write too many notes this time, but the ending, actually kind of got to me a little bit. Because two flowers parting ways, and he has this nice little speech at the end, and he's like, yeah, I've enjoyed traveling, I've enjoyed seeing these things, but I think part of the beauty of seeing these things and making these travels is going back home. I think that's kind of what makes it meaningful. And I'm paraphrasing, but like, going on these adventures, going back home, and reminiscing about that adventure is part of the beauty of it all. To have that memory to look back on. And I'm probably butchering it, but that was essentially the point. And I thought it was just a very sweet little ending. And then the luggage goes and follows Rincewind around, and he goes to try to become a proper wizard. And that's kind of where we leave him off. He'll come back in a couple other stories, and I think there's 4 more that he will appear in. I mean, I know all these characters have cameos in other books and stuff. Like Mort just did, Isabel, Death himself, where they have books that are more centered around them. And so I'm sure he'll appear in other books as well. But in terms of books where he's kind of like the center point, we got 4 left after that. So, but I really enjoyed these characters. Definitely from what I've heard about the series, it's going to get even better, stronger in terms of comedy, seriousness, genuineness, and I look forward to all that. I feel like I got a nice glimmer at the end of this story, and I'm excited to see what else there is to offer. So, up next, and yes, I am procrastinating on reading more Wheel of Time. I'm sorry. I need the break. I'm sorry. So up next, we have Equal Rights by Terry Pratchett. And then we switch gears very, very heavily. I mean, I think I also have a Star Trek book lined up. But then we do a drastic change where we're going to read the Prince of Nothing trilogy by Baker, however you say his name. R. Scott Bakker. And then we will return to the Wheel of Time at the end of 2025, beginning early 2026. So that's what's immediately up next. So I hope you all look forward to that. And of course, there will be more Discworld in between all of that. So that way I can, have some sanity in between work, which is what Wheel of Time has definitely felt like at times, and the darkness that came before and will be consuming me as I read that trilogy. But until then, guys, live long and prosper. Don't fall off the edge of the world, and have a fantastic day, evening, night, afternoon, whenever you're watching this. And thank you all for being here. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate you all, and you guys are awesome. And if you haven't read these books, you need to start. Till next time.